Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Week 9 post-game show. I am Kevin Knight, joined by my co-host this evening, Adnan Igic. We are here to talk the Falcons' Week 9 victory over the Broncos. It was a little bit sweaty there at the end, much like some other events this week, but ultimately the Falcons prevailed. They held on due to some timely plays by the defense, Ricardo Allen in particular, and doing just enough on offense to keep this thing alive. It was a very interesting game where the team looked like downright dominant at times, but unlike the Minnesota game, they were not dominant throughout the whole game. It was pretty stressful there at the end. So, Adnan, just watching this game and processing it, what are your immediate takeaways? Because I was getting pretty salty there at the end, thinking that they were going to blow this again.
It felt like just business as usual for the Falcons this season, where it's like, I'm pretty sure we had like a 98% chance to win, and it's like, oh, almost blew that one. And it would have been just like we would have been able to cover another little circle on the bingo card. Like, hey, let's blow a game where we have a penalty, stop the clock,
right,
when we're running the clock down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we almost pulled that off, but some nice pressure on Drew Lock in the end, and some timely luck, because Jerry Jeudy had a pass up the seam that it was a good defensive play, a good defensive knockaway, but it's one that, looking back, maybe Jerry Jeudy should have had.
Yeah.
And if he had that one, then we're looking at a Lions situation where they're going no huddle, and our defense is just on its heels. And then he had that little pass which bounced off the head of Philip Lindsay. But it's a game where the team took the lead 27-6, and not for a second did I think that Denver would mount a serious comeback.
Right. Not
for a single second, because you already knew it was coming. And then Jerry Jeudy went to work, showcased why he was a first rounder, why he was the presumed best receiver in his draft class for the entirety of the college football season last year. And I to this day I have no idea why the Raiders took Henry Ruggs over him.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. The defense did a great job shutting down the run game, even though the Broncos really had no choice but to pass. Because they were playing from behind the entire game. Still held Philip Lindsay to 2.9 yards per carry. You held Melvin Gordon at 3 yards per carry. Did a great job shutting Drew Lock down for the most part up until the end there, where he just started going off in that fourth quarter with the help of Jerry Jeudy. Overall the defense made a play.
Yeah.
They made a play last week. They made a play this week. Last week it was the Bleedy Ray pick. This week it was the Ricardo Allen pick, right when you needed it the most. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they weren't making plays the first few weeks, and had they just made one play against Detroit, one play against Dallas, one play against Chicago, then we'd be looking at a completely different team right now. We'd be looking at possibly a 7-2 team, a 6-3 team right now. But they made a play, and they feel good heading into the bye week at this point. And good for them, because they have the Saints coming out of the bye week.
Yeah, and that's a must-win for multiple reasons.
Absolutely.
Mostly because we just have to beat the Saints. But it was a weird game. It was like one part utter domination, and then other part just kind of flaccid play from the Falcons. At no point were they really awful, except for maybe those last few drives on offense. They just Denver tried 2 onside kicks, for those that weren't paying attention. Didn't get either one. The Falcons got the ball on Denver's side of the field, and they needed, maybe 10 yards to get in field goal range, and they failed to do so twice. They failed to even get 10 yards. They barely burned any clock. This has been a consistent problem now. They just can't close out games. It's a systematic issue. It's it's built into their DNA. And I think that's more a Dirk Koetter thing than anything to do with the defense. I think the defense played about as well as you could hope in this game. We know they're not very good. So if they can play quite well for a half, that's about what we should expect. if they could play well for a half and keep the team under 10 points and then, give up points later, that's about the high end of what we can expect from this defense. It's just not a good defense overall. But, the offense has to be able to close this out. Like, when you're up 3 touchdowns and you have 3 drives in the fourth quarter that you just punt on every single one, it's just not going to cut it against teams that aren't bad. And like we've seen with this Falcons team, they've only been able to beat teams that are not good. When they come up against good teams, they fall away. So it's disappointing, obviously, but this is who this team is. We know this is who they are. They're not some great team, but they're good enough to be competitive, and that's basically what I said at the beginning of the season. And maybe if they weren't so just darn awful in the first 5 games of the season, they would be in competition for the playoffs. But at this point, they're not. We got a $5 from George Costanza. George Costanza, again, brother, we thank you so much for your support. Playing for pride is what he says. We'll somehow go 4-3 or 5-2 over the last 7. I mean, it seems like they love to do that, right? Why didn't they have this kind of effort or give a shit the first half of the season? This team pisses me off. I don't know how I put up with this crap. Yeah.
Because they should have fired Dan Quinn after week 2. They should have fired Dan Quinn at the bye week last week.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't have had a lost season. And this is on Arthur Blank as much as anyone else. We kept saying it. Arthur Blank is a great owner. You can tell he loves the team. He opens up his checkbook for the team. But it's one of those things where he's not blameless in all of this, because it was clear to everyone that Dan Quinn should not have been here. And, he was loyal to a fault. And as a result, we had a lost season. And this is completely a lost season at this point.
It is.
If they beat the Saints, then we have to start, kind of not saying playoffs, but we have to look at it like, okay, we have to kind of have the discussion, because you're 4-6. There's that extra wild card spot in the NFC, so you can kind of have the discussion a little bit. It's not going to be completely taboo, but they're not. Toward the end of the season, they're not going to sweep the Bucs twice and the Chiefs
not.
Those last 3 weeks. So that discussion that we'd be having would just be an in the moment type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's had he fired Quinn after week 2, then who knows? Maybe they probably beat the Bears. Maybe I don't know about the Detroit Lions game, because Raheem Morris was still the head coach there, but
right.
Maybe we could have won an extra game or 2 out of that. So
maybe, yeah.
It is what it is at this point. You've wasted 3 years of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones's prime, and you just have to live with that.
Yeah. It is sad, and I wish that we could have done a little bit better, but like you said, and like what folks were saying in the chat, it's the decision not to move on from Quinn when we could have really cost this team wins over the past few years, and this year obviously. And also hanging on to Dirk Koetter, but we're gonna get to that. I know you guys came for the Dirk Koetter slander, and trust me, there's gonna be plenty. Also, Braden W21 with another $5. Thank you, brother. We really appreciate your support. Braden says, "Is it just me, or does Matt Ryan think running for 3 to 5 yards is the end of the world?" Well, let me tell you something. Matt Ryan running for 3 to 5 yards is probably the most entertaining play on the Falcons offense, just because his legs are so long, man. He takes so long to get up to speed. But if he he actually isn't slow. He just doesn't have the great acceleration that the really good quarterbacks have. So if he gets moving, he's like a beautiful gazelle person out there. But he's
Matt Ryan throughout his career, he's had some good runs.
Yeah,
it's just you can tell with age he's gotten significantly slower.
Yeah,
I think this is the first year where I'm watching it and I'm Matt Ryan has really become more of a statue this year than he ever has been before.
Yeah, he's definitely, and I think part of that is, Dirk Koetter's offense. When it was Sark, and to a much larger extent, Shanahan, it was every other play was some sort of rollout or a boot, or Matt Ryan doing play action or something like that. And, under Koetter, it's been a lot less. And Matt Ryan's never really been a scrambler per se, but he's someone that you can get him out on stuff and it can work. But yeah, I mean,
He's deceptively quick.
Yeah, he's got the deceptive white man speed.
Deceptively quick. He has the hard hat and lunch pail type of guy.
Yeah.
A student of the game.
Right,
a real
that Croy Bierman speed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. a real coach's son.
Yes, exactly. Lunch pail guy. Yeah, I mean, he did have that great move, J-Dub, that he avoided that sack. He just kind of like juked the dude like with his slight movement. So maybe I blame the defender more than I give Matt Ryan credit for that, because Matt Ryan like barely moved and the guy just like totally missed. But
he had that Panthers player on all fours last week.
He did the Panther style coverage. He's trying to like lunge at him like that. But yeah, it was interesting. And it seems like the Vikings game was like this, except they didn't blow it in the second half. But just that they were able to kind of get out to this big lead, and the offense was firing on all cylinders. And at the end of the game, they just kind of sucked. They just the offense just totally went in the tank. It was just weird calls too. Like, I get like wanting to run the ball to burn clock. Like, I totally get that. But then they would just mix in these passes. So it's like, if you want to burn clock, just burn clock. Like, just do it. You don't have to like try to do anything else. But then they're mixing in passes to stop the clock, and then they're getting these really dumb like formation-based penalties to stop the clock. Like, it's just, the offense isn't well run, and it's just what it is the talent making Dirk Koetter look good. Like, I mean, his route combos were better this time. Like that Brandon Powell touchdown, that was a nice like little rub route set up there that helped Powell get open. But like, there were several plays that were sent to me by guys, some of you guys on Twitter, that showed that some of these route trees that Koetter uses for these pass plays are just so vanilla. It's like, all right, everyone run a hook. It's like that. How does that help any other receiver in your area? Like that, there's a reason that NFL offenses don't just randomly pick routes out of a book and have their receivers run them. Like there's concepts that you try to do, like flood concepts and sail concepts, and when you run trips, you do certain things. Like, there's lots of things you can use in your arsenal, and Dirk Koetter seems to be pretty content to just, okay, you run this and you run that.
He's coaching at like it's 2010. Like, he's coaching like it was a full decade ago at this point, because you're barely seeing any RPOs. You're not seeing any rub routes. You're not seeing any deceptive pick plays on his routes where you slyly put a wide receiver into a route out there and it's a natural pick. It's very frustrating. Like, I was watching the Georgia-Florida game yesterday, and Florida absolutely wrecked Georgia, and it was just an entire game of wheel route pick plays. Just the wheel route was just so unstoppable. It's one of my favorite routes, like, that I have in football. I think it's a top 3 route in football. And we're just not seeing it. It was just such a difference watching that Florida offense yesterday, for example, as opposed to this Atlanta offense, because when's the last time we've seen something like, a natural pick into a wheel route? We don't even get the ball out to the running backs like
right.
in the passing game.
Yeah, there was like one running back target, and it was like so telegraphed. It was like Gurley lined up next to Matt Ryan. He just kind of like lightly jogged out into the flat area, and then just after a few seconds, Matt Ryan threw him the ball, and there was like a guy on him like immediately. Like, it was just so pathetic. like Gurley wasn't even running. Like, he had to go over there and stop to get the ball. Like, the level of complexity of these offensive play designs is just so sad.
Now, we did still win the game.
We did win the game. Yes.
We're sounding like we lost the game here, and maybe this conversation would be a lot deeper had Denver marched down the field on that last drive. But it's such a shame, because the offense was looking really good in that first half. Like, every single drive in the first half was a score. Like, it ended in a kick. It was either a field goal or a touchdown. And then Matt Ryan had that interception on what's it was a deep enough pick where it's like a de facto punt where he gave the ball away. but then you scored again. The offense just looked like it was humming, and then it just wasn't. I don't remember the last time this offense has put it together for all 4 quarters. Like maybe that Dallas game, but even in that one, you had so many questionable plays where you settled for field goals instead of touchdowns, and you had so many short fields. I'm not worried so much so about the offense against the Saints in a couple of weeks, just because the Saints defense is not what it's been the past 3 years. They can definitely be had, but you can't do just enough against that Saints offense. Even though Drew Brees' arm almost falls off whenever he attempts a pass more than 5 yards down the field. Like the play designs that Sean Payton makes are good enough to where it doesn't matter. Like he's scheming around Brees' weaknesses, and the Saints are still moving the ball. They have Alvin Kamara, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL.
Yeah.
And you're going to need your offense to maybe win a shootout in that one.
Right. Yeah, and it's a difficult game. The Saints certainly aren't as dominant as they've been in some years past, but yeah, I mean, there were some good things today. Like, don't get us wrong. Like by picking on some weak points. Like I do the Dirk Koetter slander because the people have come to expect it. That's kind of our brand. But like, the offense on the whole was good. Like they scored 34 points. Like I mean that ain't nothing. That's a solid number for sure. Like that's on track. If you score that every week, you're going to be one of the NFL's best offenses. But like it's more the simple things that Dirk Koetter doesn't do well. And then he requires Matt Ryan to bail him out with these big plays to get over it. Like we're still seeing the team run on 2nd and 10 like constantly. We're still seeing. And then we saw like screens on 2nd and 10. That's not better. Okay, that's the same thing. Like you're still starting at the 10 at the 1 yard line, needing to get to the 10. Like it doesn't make a difference. That's the same thing as a run on 1st down. So
and Raheem Morris in the press conference said the Dirty Birds are back.
Oh wow.
At 3-6.
Well, so we're doomed. Yeah. Is this just like when they printed those shirts after they won that? They started.
Oh God. Yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why our head coaches can't like take a hint and just like just stay quiet and just
shut up. Just shut up and let them play.
Just like shut up when you're so bad. Like you're under 500. Nobody wants to like listen to you. To you give these slogans and like give these like proclamations and stuff like
right,
bro, you're 3-6. Like maybe if you like get back to above 500, we can like start having a discussion about more lively press conferences. But the fan base doesn't want to hear that right now.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, there were good things, certainly good aspects of the game. Raheem Morris, please don't like start slogans like let's get back to 500. Like if you go 0-5 and get back to 500, then I think we can start to maybe say that we have something here. But like we got a long way to go, and the second half of the season is not going to be any easier. Like this is not going to be easy. So
it's going to be so hard.
It's going to be really hard. So just like want to be straight up about that and help everyone set their expectations there. But like we're going to get to some good stuff now, I promise. But before we do, I just want to remind folks that if you haven't liked the video already, we really appreciate that. It helps other folks on YouTube find the video with their fancy algorithms. And then if you haven't subscribed already, we're tantalizingly close to 2,000 subscribers. So if anyone's feeling, like they want to help us out today and help us hit that mark, I think we need like 7. So if you guys want to like pile in, I'll give you a shout out, everyone that subscribes. And we would really appreciate that. It's just a cool milestone. So thanks, folks. And yes, for everyone that was asking, I put the link to donate into the description of the show. So you don't have to ask me about it anymore. It's not hidden anymore in the deep recesses of chat. It's in the show description. So I figured that one out. So thank you for your advice there. I think that is going to make it a lot easier. So again, thanks, folks.
Yeah. Also, I'd love to see more play actions on 1st down. If Dirk Koetter does end up somehow seeing this feed, but please run more play actions on 1st down.
Yeah,
like that's a play that just works.
It does. It works really well.
Like it works. It's like we had a few weeks ago Ben Baldwin.
Yeah,
Help me with
Ben
his name.
Baldwin. It was Ben Baldwin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ben Baldwin. Yeah, it was Ben Baldwin, and he laid it out perfectly. He's the analytics guy. He said that the play action pass on first down, it's like a corner three in basketball. Like it's what you want because the defense will always react to the play action. These are football players who have grown up reading the run, and as we've learned through analytics the past few years, you just need them to somewhat think that you're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to establish the run like we thought like back in the 80s. Like you use the math that you have. Just like and I'm not saying every first down play action, but just like way more than now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those easy things, and like it's the same thing with pre-snap motion too. It's like just easy things you incorporate into your play design that make your plays far more likely to be successful. Like all the great offensive coordinators do it. It doesn't really take that much. It's not really hard per se. But I think these old school coaches, they're just not up to date with it. Like it seems like these sorts of things. And like Dirk has been running more play action, but like it's still not a lot. And he's been running some pre-snap motion, but it's still like at the lowest rate in the league. So it's just bizarre. It's something that I don't really understand with him, and I don't think we ever will, because it's so obvious. But it doesn't stop him and coaches like Adam Gase from refusing to use it. So someone's told him, I'm sure, like someone's been up to him and like, hey, Dirk, maybe we should run some pre-snap motion. Like I want to like imagine it's like Kurt Benkert or some cool player going up to him like, hey, like maybe we should run more pre-snap motion. And he's like, you know what, Kurt, I really appreciate you coming up to me today, and I'm gonna take that into consideration. And then he just like balls it up and like throws it in the trash or something.
What it's really like is Kurt Benkert suggests that, and he's like, who are you?
Oh yeah, who? Oh yeah, no. Why don't you go out, and become the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then we'll talk about play designs. So.
Oh yeah, we have two former Bucks head coaches leading the team right now.
Oh yeah. So it's,
and that's before the Bucks were like this. That's like the last 10 years of the Bucks. They have not been like this every year. Trust me.
Yeah. It's yeah, but like also I want to give shout to like the individual players I think have been playing really well, and that's what's kind of helped out Koetter despite his poor play calling. Like Olamide Zaccheaus really stepped up today.
Yeah, he had himself a half in the first.
Yeah,
half.
I mean, and if that was a little bit of a better thrown ball for Ryan on that first play of the second half, that could have been another touchdown. Like it was just a little bit underthrown, and Zaccheaus had to stop to try to come back for it. But it was, that could have been another big play to him. Brandon Powell had that nice touchdown. Brandon Powell's a much better receiver than he is punt returner. I know I've slandered Brandon Powell on this show many times, but as a receiver, he's fine. Like he's fine. He's totally deserving of a roster spot. But I just don't really see what we're getting in terms of return potential. But that's another story. Chris Lindstrom, I think, had a hell of a game. He was instrumental on that Gurley touchdown run in particular. That was nice. Any players in particular that stood out to you from today, Adnan?
Foy was solid once again. Grady Jarrett. Zaccheaus killed it in that first half. Like he stepped up into that Calvin Ridley role, and we didn't miss a beat without Ridley. Julio Jones, he had that great play in the first half where he just like fought off those defenders with like a stiff arm. And, Julio only had 54 yards. One of them was a 21-yarder. But, it felt like one of those games where Julio Jones was fine, like, more into a decoy role because Zaccheaus was, like, having himself, like, the game of his life so far. And, I want to give a big shout-out to Ricardo Allen. Like, I've given him a hard time. I still don't think that he's going to be here after this year just because of cap considerations.
Yeah.
But he had the big interception, and it was a lot of pressure on Drew Lock on the play, but he came away with it. And Jacob Tuohy Mariner, he got some nice. He was in the backfield a few times. Like you're not going to look back on this game. Jordy Mariner only had one tackle, but he was getting those pressures on Drew Lock, and he was stepping up in the absence of Dante Fowler and Jack McKinley and all those pass rushers on the team. So shout out to him.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all those. Like the young guys really stepped up. Like Twatty Mariner was definitely one of the big names that was out there. Obviously Grady Jarrett, but it's kind of just like obvious that Grady Jarrett's going to be one of the standouts like every single game. Let's see. Steven Means I thought was pretty good. I think Steven Means has been a better pass rusher than Dante Fowler, which is pretty sad, but it's where we're at right now.
But what about that run defense? That's what I want to give $16 million for.
You can't pay too much for good run defense. Maybe if it's Snacks Harrison, we could talk about paying somebody that much money for run defense, but he's making like veteran minimum. I think he's on a practice squad or something. Snacks Harrison. So like let's calm down with the run defense talk here, but no, I mean it's pretty silly.
That's what I want in 2020. I want to shut down the run.
Yeah, well, the Falcons do that. I can't remember. Let me look up how many yards it was.
And you can see exactly what it gets you if you just shut down the run and ignore the pass.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how many yards it was exactly that they allowed on the ground. It was not very many. I mean, most of it was Drew Lock.
And then just on scramble drills.
Yeah,
and that's one of those where it's like you can't blame the run defense for just like him going and just like like I said, Lindsey and Melvin Gordon were essentially shut down on the carries they did have. They combined for 14 carries, and they had 41 yards total in those 14 carries.
So that was the running backs didn't get anything, but KJ Hamler had that one end around for 15 yards, and then Locke had 6 for 47. So the Falcons only allowed like 103 yards on the ground, which is still pretty good. But man, Drew Lock had more passing yards than Matt Ryan. That's interesting.
I mean, mostly garbage time yards.
It was almost entirely.
Matt Ryan was doing what he needed. He also had 13 more attempts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the run game was bad again this week. The Falcons averaged like two something per attempt, maybe a little over 3. So that was not great, obviously. But Olamide Zaccheaus 4 for 103 and 1 touchdown. So if you were starting Olamide Zaccheaus in your fantasy league, you must have been a very desperate person. But it paid off for you. So. Probably won some DFS lineups if you happen to pick Olamide Zaccheaus. So, but I mean, I know a lot of people are asking like, are the Falcons actually good? Like, can we make the playoffs? Rayshawn Johnson asks that. No, like they're fine. They're a competitive team, but they're not a playoff team. I mean, now if they add this 8th playoff spot, I'm not gonna. Like, you can't hold that against me if they add, like, another additional playoff spot. Like, this has never happened before. So, like, if they add an 8th playoff spot, then yes.
Just let everyone into the playoffs.
Sure. Anyone can make it at that point. They could be at 6-10 and make it if there's an 8th playoff spot. I mean, I don't know.
Just have a full 32 team playoff.
Yeah.
It'll be like... like March Madness.
Exactly.
And just let everyone in.
Exactly. Like, we'll just have, how about we have 16 weeks and each team plays each other, and then at the end of the season, the one with the most, wins, goes to the playoffs, and, oh, wait, we're already doing it that way. No, I mean, it's just, Whew. I just don't, I mean, like, is this team in competition for like the top draft picks anymore? Probably not.
No.
So that's sad.
Back in football purgatory.
Yep.
Just exactly where we've been the last 2 years.
Yeah, they're too bad to be good, basically. But at the end of the day, it's probably better that the team isn't like trash, because I think that actually helps attract coaching candidates. As much as everyone's like, oh, coaches want to have the number 1 overall pick, it's like, well, they also want the team to not be bad. They would rather come into a team that's like a couple pieces away, and that generally doesn't happen if the team is like picking in the top 3 or something like that. So.
Yeah. And in regards to the run game today, Gurley averaged 2.8 yards per carry. on 19 totes. Now, in fairness, the Broncos are a very good run defense.
They are certainly.
But yeah, that's really bad against anyone.
Yeah, it's obviously not ideal. Let's see.
19 carries.
Yeah, Mark Godby asks, can the Falcons win every game after the bye week?
No.
I mean,
in theory, it's possible.
Right.
Theoretically, sure.
Sure.
Will it happen?
No. I would say the second half is harder than the first half. This is like the soft inner part of the schedule here, like that we're in right now.
And it's exactly what I said would happen a few weeks ago. They'll win a few of these games. They'll make us think that they're good. You know, they'll like suck us in, and then like in the second half, we're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah. They're gonna play a lot. The caliber of team they're gonna play is gonna get a lot better after the bye week. So we'll see there. I mean, hopefully they'll get some players back from injury. They'll get their edge rushers back. They'll get Calvin Ridley back. Because we're on the bye week now. But I mean, they still have to play a lot of really good teams. I'm really not convinced that this team is actually that good. I mean, I think there's a limit to what you can do with Dirk Koetter running your offense. I just think there's a hard ceiling to that. And it's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but we're apparently not getting rid of Dirk Koetter this year. So until that changes, that's basically what we're stuck with. So that's where we're at. Yeah, like I said, guys, if you have any specific questions, you can throw them in the chat at the Falcoholic. Help me see those. We'll answer a few questions from you guys tonight as well if you have them. Yeah, I'm just kind of like in this place where I just don't really know what to think about this team. Like, I was getting ready for draft takes, right? We were on trajectory for mock draft season, soon. And now they're winning all these games, and it's like, oh, crap. So, I mean, obviously we're not in for like the team just full-on tanking, but, would you have liked to see this team been a little bit worse and end up with a better draft pick, or are you...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Probably.
Like, I told you, I'm shamelessly yes. We've seen it. We've seen what playing for pride gets you the last 2 years.
Yeah. Not much.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets you this season that we're having now.
It gets you another poor season. Well, in fairness, if they had, made some tough decisions last year, maybe we would have been okay. But, we can't. We can't make the tough decisions until it's too late. That's been one of the calling cards of this team, unfortunately. So Viral Graph asks, if someone like Justin Fields drops to pick 5 or something, are we interested in trading up? Probably depends on the head coach.
A lot.
Yeah, it would be expensive.
It would cost a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, because of how much it costs, it would probably it could mean sacrificing the rest of the Matt Ryan era.
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it would be tough to pull off because there's a lot of quarterback needy teams this year. It probably depends on how close we are to the top 5 too, and depends on the head coach. Because if they really want a quarterback, they might be willing to trade a lot for that quarterback. It's harder to make that sort of pick if Matt Ryan's playing well, which he has been over the last few weeks. So we'll see if that continues. But if Matt Ryan falls off a cliff or something like that, that could be one thing. But I just don't really see that happening at this point. James Rogers asking, will Morris get a head coach interview? I assume he means with the Falcons, but I'll spread that out to say for other teams too. And yes, I mean, they've already said they will be interviewing him for the Falcons job. I don't really think he's got a lot of a chance to make that work. I just don't think he's going to be good enough. Like, he would probably have had to make the playoffs and win playoff games to really be in serious consideration. But for other teams, maybe, if there's teams out there that are looking for a guy that they think has upside, someone that's got certainly experience. I also think, underrated could be that he could be the Falcons defensive coordinator next year if the new head coach doesn't have someone that he's like really fond of to bring in. But what are your thoughts on Morris, Adnan?
I think he'll definitely get an interview with the team. I think ultimately they'll decide to go somewhere else just because, one, we've been calling for an offensive head coach forever. Like we've had our last two head coaches have been defensive head coaches, and they've been, you know, we've seen the results the past decade. And it's just you want a culture change. You want a completely clean house, and get away from what we've seen the past few years. It's not Morris's fault, but it's collateral. He's collateral at this point. Like he was on Quinn's staff. You don't want to have that residue of the end of the Dan Quinn era on with this team, and I'm not buying into it's a good finish to the season, because look at what good finishes to the season that led us to the last couple of years. There is no momentum carrying over into next year. That's completely false. Like that's a complete myth. But I think Morris will he'll get some looks for defensive coordinator and for head coach around the league. And I definitely think Arthur Blank should give him a strong letter of recommendation, so to speak.
Certainly.
At other jobs. Now, if if Morris wins out the rest of the season, like, could he be retained? Will he be retained? Maybe. But I'm not even going to entertain that. I don't think that we're winning out the rest of the year.
No, that's unlikely. And that kind of goes into Chris Brooks' question here, which is at 10-6. Well, I thought you were saying, could we go 10-6 and make the playoffs? But he's asking, if we finish 10-6, will we make the playoffs? Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 10 wins gets you to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I would say 9-7 probably gets you in for sure.
Yeah, 10 wins gets you in almost every year under the former playoff system, where there's only 6 teams. If there's 7 teams, then 10-6 definitely gets you in.
Yeah, and if there's 8, we could be talking about 7-9 teams getting in. So we'll see with that. But 10-6 is definitely a record that's going to get you into the playoffs almost every time. All right, we got Harvey Presley. Should we go after an edge rusher in the draft or free agency? Draft, yes. Draft. Free agency, we can't really. I mean, other than bargain basement type of players.
Yeah, draft. And also, you will, every single time you will overpay for free agent pass rushers. It's a premium position. We saw with Dante Fowler this past year. You cannot get a pass rusher in free agency without overpaying for him.
Yeah, unless you get really lucky. Like Shaq Barrett.
There's some, like Shaq Barrett. I was going to say there's some really rare moments like that, but you can't bank on that. It's like in baseball where, if you're a pitcher needing team and you want a pitcher, you're going to completely overpay for him. It's better to draft and develop your own.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. They don't have any money either, so it's just not really possible. You just kind of take shots at these kind of low-end free agents and you hope somebody hits. I mean, it looks like we have something in Steven Means, to an extent. These young guys. I mean, Charles Harris, I think, was a good value signing there too. Trading that late pick to get him in here. He's helped. So I think those have been some good things. But clearly the free agency route has not really worked out for the Falcons. Biograph asks, what team do we think is the most attractive head coaching spot? Well, right now there's only 2 openings, right? But there will probably be more. Like Detroit probably will be in that category. Chicago maybe. The Jets absolutely should be. Who knows what will really happen? But the Falcons, I think the Falcons are the best job.
Yeah, I do too.
They clearly have the best overall talent.
You have Watson down in Houston, but you also don't have, any draft picks. And, Matt Ryan's pretty good in Atlanta, and Matt Ryan's good enough to where you can win for a few years while you look for that next franchise quarterback.
Yeah, it's kind of the best of both worlds, as long as you're not just totally insistent upon getting that quarterback right now. And if you're looking for the franchise quarterback that you don't have to worry about for 10 plus years, it's not going to be a thing in Atlanta. That's the one thing that they don't have. They have a quarterback you can probably depend on for at least 3 years if you want to stick with the quarterback for a while. But that's the one leg up that the Texans have in terms of the rest of the roster, in terms of cap, in terms of draft capital. The Falcons are clearly better.
Yeah. The only possible like other avenue is if a head coaching candidate just is completely in love with Trevor Lawrence, and then in that case you like
then you go to the Jets.
Yeah, you go to the Jets.
Yeah,
because it's like you have possibly a generational quarterback at your disposal.
Yeah.
That you can completely build around. So, it's a matter of preference.
It is, yeah. So that's my take on it. It just depends on what the coach wants to, but I don't think anyone's really going to want to go to the Jets. Like, if we're being honest, they had to settle for Adam Gase last time.
Yeah, but also in fairness, they didn't have Trevor Lawrence back then.
They didn't, but
they had who was their quarterback before? Was it Geno? Before Sam Darnold.
I mean, I don't remember. It might have been Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year, right?
It was Ryan Fitzpatrick when he broke their franchise record for passing yards in the season.
Yeah.
That was the Jets. It's been the Jets' quarterback history.
Yeah, it's been a pretty rough ride for them. Don Emery asks, will there be a Sanat sighting again this season? Apparently not. Apparently it wasn't just Dan Quinn that Sanat pissed off, because Falcons are very thin at defensive tackle, and they still keep Sanat inactive every single week. So
maybe he pissed off Raheem Morris.
Maybe it was Raheem Morris the whole time. Yeah, because he was the defensive coordinator.
Raheem Morris won't even let him practice anymore.
Right, and Robert Kelly brings up a good point too with Marlon Davidson. Like, he's inactive now, and I don't believe he's not healthy. So I don't know what's going on with that, but that would be disastrous.
It has to be some injury.
It could be an injury, but I don't even know if it's on the injury report.
Because it's like, oh, maybe they're just lying.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be.
But because it's like you have to at least trot him out as your second round pick.
Yeah.
At the very least, you have to trot him out.
Yeah, it's getting to be weird with that one too. They just have this weird thing with these day 2 defensive tackles that they just put them on ice and we never hear from them again. So it would be good if we could hear from them at some point, because we invested a lot of capital in those players. So this would be the time, obviously, to see if you have anything there, in my opinion. But, they clearly don't listen to me. All right, folks. Well, overall, nice win. A little bit stressful at the end, but the team came out on top, so we'll celebrate that. Adnan, any other takes on the game you want to get in here before we wrap up?
It's a win, another win. I think it's a mirage more than anything. I'm sorry. You've beaten the Panthers, you've beaten the Broncos. These aren't you've beaten the Vikings. These aren't world beaters.
Right.
We'll see what this team is really about on the other side of the bye week in that second half.
Yeah. Yep, that'll be the big question is, what does this team do after the bye week? And if they start, rattling off wins against teams that are actually good, then we could start talking about playoffs. We could start, talking about that. But we have to get back to 500, okay? It's a little premature to start being oh, yeah, it's going to be fine. We're definitely going to do it. I just remember, we got that one win. We were 1-5, and people were like, you're telling me there's a chance. No, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that. That's you. That was 100% you. So, but no, it's fun to talk about, and it's fun to know that technically, we're not mathematically eliminated yet. But just keep your expectations in check, and your expectations should tell you that this team is not great. So just relax. But yeah, before we wrap up, guys, just one more reminder: if you don't mind throwing a like at the show, we appreciate that. That helps other folks find it. And then if you hit that subscribe button, you'll get notifications when we go live, so you don't have to keep up with refreshing your feed all the time and all that nonsense. Otherwise, guys, want to thank my co-host, Adnan Ikic, at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, anything you're working on you want to plug tonight?
Fantasy Stud and Dart article, NFC South recap article, and, enjoy the bye week, folks. Enjoy a stress-free Sunday next week.
Yes, stress-free Sunday. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, guys, we will be back on Wednesday, obviously, even though it's the bye week. We'll talk, about this game a little more in depth. We'll talk about any moves that the team makes, talk about injury updates, all that good stuff, but it'll be otherwise somewhat of a quiet week. I'm, of course, Kevin Knight at Falcoholic Kevin on Twitter. You can check out my stuff on thefalcoholic.com. It's where you get all the best Falcons coverage, news, analysis, and hot takes. No one does it better than our crew over there. The show, DW also has a podcast too. So if you follow the podcast feed where you get our shows, you can also check out the regular Falcoholic podcast. That's on there too. But yeah, guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thank you once again. Like I said, we'll be back on Wednesday at 8:10 p.m. Eastern to do a little bye-week talk, and then it'll be a relaxing weekend. So enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. We will see you guys next time. Have a great night.